process.
The gentlewoman from Texas is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House. 3 minutes.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
I am delighted to be yielded to by the gentlelady and thank her for her championing this outstanding legislation. And I thank my good friend for acknowledging the en bloc. And I would like to say that there is good news. The good news is that Recovering America's Wildlife Act is a once-in-a-generation funding for the conservation of threatened species of animals and plants, as well as habitat preservation. And I'll discuss the importance of it as I also present to the body my amendment. But let me first of all say I pay tribute to Ellison, 7 years old, and to Roy, 7 years old, my twin grandchildren, who love every species that they can find within their backyard or any place else that you would take them. I see in their lifetime the vision of this legislation. They love the outdoors. They love to see crawling things, and they are both a boy and a girl. But yet, what are we facing today? The world is facing an unprecedented loss of wildlife. Bird populations have declined almost 30% in U.S. and Canada since 1970. Over 40% of America's freshwater fish are at risk of extinction. And state agencies have identified 12,000 species of wildlife in need of conservation. The Speaker knows that we experienced, Texas and Louisiana, a catastrophic oil spill some years ago. I remember visiting oyster fishermen and others who were devastated. We need to get in there and make a difference. 12,000 species are currently identified as endangered in the United States, and 1,300 of them are in my state of Texas. As I said, fishermen are still crying out for help. Climate change poses unprecedented challenge to plant, animal, and animal species due to wildfires, droughts, floods, temperature shifts. Hurricane Harvey devastated the coast and the opportunities for wildlife. The resulting threat to biodiversity has the potential to disrupt our ecosystem and with it human quality of life and sustainability. Urban sprawl, as well as development of suburbs and exurbs, all encroach on the habitat that supports biodiversity, and it has ripple effects that compound the degradation of our environment from climate change. We want to be hanging in there with fishermen, sportsmen, bikers, hikers, bikers in the appropriate atmosphere, but hikers in particular. Our children deserve to know the natural beauty of their country. They deserve to see the beauty of wildlife. They deserve to be good custodians of that. And the children need to be diverse. And so the amendment that I offer is to ensure that children will continue to spend their days fishing, gardening alongside bees, watching the migratory birds, but also looking at the wild and the species that are in them. In addition to providing $1.3 billion in funding to protect our nation's wildlife, $50 million of which will go to Texas, the Recovering America's Wildlife Act of 2021.
Gentleman's time has expired.
I would yield another minute to the gentleman.
Gentleman is recognized.
This is a great effort. My amendment fixes and adds to this by adding Title IV. We stipulate the Secretary of the Interior must no later than 1 year after passage provide a report on the dollar amount of grants, contracts, and subcontracts that were allocated to historically black colleges and universities, Hispanic servant educational institutions, tribally controlled colleges and universities, and women and minority-owned businesses. My amendment goes into the broad span of Americans, brings them into the arena, and gives a needed investment in people of color who deserve to be not only included, but intentionally targeted in new conservation investments to open their eyes, to give them the opportunity to ensure our Native American friends are included as well, and women and minority-owned businesses, let they have an investment as well. In addition, with the enactment of this legislation, my amendment would create a framework for prioritizing historically disadvantaged groups in environmental efforts, bring them again into the fold that should be replicated in future efforts. This is an important step. I want you to listen to me, historically black colleges, Hispanic serving. This is also a day for you. Support this legislation, and we will expand and build and support America. I yield back.